cheapest 3-axis gimbal drone, or one of them. Nice box. Quite a nice case. I have opened this before, so I know what's in there, but I was quite impressed with the case. Decent quality. Instruction booklets. Spare propellers. Strap. 1 battery. USB cable. The drone. The controller, a battery charger, and in here phone connectors, and something I'm not very impressed with, sticks for the controller, separate to the controller. Look at the controller first. Neat little controller. Sport switch like DJI, turn it on or off. Return to home pause button. Function button, that's for the gimbal, so you can either zoom or use the gimbal up and down. You've got a dedicated camera button and a dedicated video button. I'll just pop the joysticks on. Unlike every other drone I've ever owned, the controller doesn't have a slot anywhere for the joysticks, so they're undoubtedly going to get lost at some point, but they're only a few quid for a spare set, but I just know they're going to get lost. To attach your phone, goes in there. Mine's an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and unfortunately it doesn't fit in there, it's just not big enough, with the case on, in fairness. If I take the case off it'll fit, but it's still really tight. It feels decent, the remote. I mean, it is a cheap drone. I paid £175 from AliExpress, took about 3 weeks to arrive, so it's pretty cheap for what it is. What I don't like about the controller is that micro USB, that's to charge it, that's to connect the phone. Why in this day and age is anyone using micro USB? USB-C feels great when you plug it in, it feels solid, but micro USB just doesn't. It's probably a cost saving exercise. Press and hold, power it on. That red light turns green, I think, when it connects to the drone, and that shows you how much power's in the battery. It does charge your phone when the phone's connected to it. So onto the drone. It's actually pretty decent. It's decent build quality. It's on a par with something like the Potensic Atom. It's not as good as DJI, I don't think anything is. Another thing as well, if you're in the UK like me, don't get caught out on Amazon, because Amazon sell the Seafly Faith 2 drone. And I think it's about £250, and you'd think that is this. This is the Seafly Faith Mini 2. It's got a few more features, but the biggest difference is the newer model, this one, it has 4K 30 frames per second, whereas the old Mini 1 had 4K 15 frames per second, and I think in reality it was only 2.7K. 15 frames per second just looks rubbish, there's just no use for that. So the new version, which has 4K 30, and the video is supposed to be a lot better, and I think it's 50 megabytes per second bit rate, so that should improve it as well. And my point was, Amazon, you'll see one called the Seafly Faith 2, £250. This is Amazon UK, obviously you get warranty with that. But if you look at the specs on that particular drone, it is the old version, the 4K 15 frames per second. So you're getting the Mini 1, the Seafly Faith Mini 1, but they've called it something else. And I think it's branded by Teagy. If you buy the other Seafly from Amazon, which is the Mini 1, you will get a good warranty, but you're getting the old model. It does look quite well made. It's got the usual rotors that all the other budget drones use. Feels quite solid actually. It's very light, obviously, so it's sub 250. Gimbal cover, pretty decent. It's got some foam to stop the gimbal from bouncing about in transit, so that's good. It looks like it's got ground sensors, but I don't think that is. I think that's just for fancy. I might be wrong, but it doesn't look like there's anything in those holes. It's marked 249 ultralight. For that 275 from AliExpress as well, it came with the SanDisk Ultra 64GB card, which I think is good because they're about £10 to £15. Incidentally, they're not always £275 on AliExpress. It was just a sale, so I thought I'd snap one up and try it out. There's one big thing I really don't like about this drone, and it's the app. Issues with Android phones. I put a little video in after this so you can see what I'm talking about, but if you've got an Android phone you might struggle with this. It seems to work fine with iPhone, but Android users you'll struggle with. So on opening it, yeah, it's a decent made drone. It feels solid, looks like it'll fly well. I haven't flown it yet. I'm going to put some flight footage and try some of the features out. I'll put that in later. Just to show you the fault of Android and the C-Fly app. Apparently it doesn't work on any Android after Android 11, so I've read. So turn the drone on. Turn the controller on. C-Fly app. It's now connecting to the drone. The drone is pointing at the soft toy, the Tiger, so you'll see that in the image. Connected. There you go. So you can see the soft toy in the image. So that's the video feed from this drone. I'm now going to move the drone. Nothing. The video feed is completely frozen. And this happens every single time. But yet, it'll let you take off, which I'm not going to do, because it will end in disaster. Also, it will let you take a picture, but if I press the gimbal dial, nothing happens because the video is completely frozen. So that's the C-Fly fault. C-Fly app fault with the C-Fly Faith Mini 2 drone. So that's how my iPhone fits in the holder. iPhone 15 Pro Max. Doesn't fit in brilliantly. It's a little rubber grommet thing there, and the feet have got little rubber It holds the phone quite securely, but I had to sort of push it in there a little bit. If I took the case off altogether, it'd fit in fine. But anyway, first world problems and all that, not everyone's got a big phone. So if you've got a normal size phone, you shouldn't have any problems. So turn it on, C-Fly app. First of all, you've got to register, and they send you an email confirmation. So if those of you who don't like registering, you've got to register. It's one of them things, you can't use the app unless you do. If you can hear a whirring, that's the fan. Quite loud, at least you know it's working. So I'm just going to go through the app now, show you some of the features. So you've got the home icon, takes you back to the app home screen. You've got the amount of satellites, it's only showing 8, it normally shows more than that, but it's a pretty cloudy day today. Ready to take off, that also tells you when you're not ready to take off. If you've got no satellites, it just gives you general information there. Height and distance in meters, vertical and horizontal speeds, and then your main settings. Beginner mode on and off, you can only fly a certain distance and it slows you down. Not sure what that means.
Really know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Automatically switch horizontal and vertical screens. I'll find out what that means when I fly it. You can set your height limit and your return to home. Always be careful with that. You always want to make sure that you're over trees, buildings, anything it might collide with, as it hasn't got any object avoidance built into this drone. Dynamic return to home point, so if you move you update that and it changes the return to home point for the drone. Speed mode, normal or sport, you've also got an actual switch to toggle that. Sensor calibration, you sometimes need to do that, and also a compass. From experience with cheap drones, you'd regularly have to calibrate your compass whenever you move to a different location. Aircraft activation time, so I activated this yesterday, and the serial number. Down to the controller. Gimbal wheel sensitivity, so if you want your gimbal to rotate fast or slow. RC paired, yeah it's paired, remote controller. Normal gear, maximum speed setting. In the normal gear mode you can set the maximum speed of the aircraft in detail in the secondary option. There's a lot lost in translation between Chinese and English, I'm not really sure what that means. Gimbal upward angle, it allows you to get a few degrees to point it up about 20 degrees from level, so I always leave that switched on because it's always useful. Battery information, usual stuff, tells you if your battery's healthy. You can set an alarm when it gets to 10% or whatever percentage, so you know your battery's about to run out. Serial number of battery, battery version, and when the battery was activated. Doesn't seem to show how many cycle counts, so that would have been useful. General settings. Find the aircraft. If the aircraft loses contact during flight, it can try to find the aircraft through the navigation function, so it'll show it on the map. Assistive grid, so that's your rule of thirds, crosshairs. Voice broadcast switch, no idea what that means. Version information. I can't see an option on this to actually software update. It didn't give me an option to software update, so not sure about that. Over here you've got automatic takeoff, OK or cancel. It doesn't seem to work when you pull down and in or down and out. It doesn't start the motors, so you seem to have to use the app to get the drone to fly. Return to home icon, and I believe, I'll find this out later when I fly it, but I believe that icon there is to go into your intelligent flight modes. Down at the bottom you've got the map. You've also got some basic waypoints, and you can toggle the map between just a normal map, satellite map view. Camera, you can toggle between video and camera. Shutter button. Settings, just as usual, you can change the shutter speed, the 4K, 2.7K HD. White balance you can change, just your usual general settings if you know about manual camera settings. If not, just leave it on auto. Then when you've taken some pictures and video, you can see them in your album there, which I haven't, so there's nothing in there. At the bottom it's telling me I'm in automatic, ISO auto, The exposure is in auto. It's telling me how many gigabytes I've got left. So yeah, it's a decent app, does the job, nothing sparkling. Well, I was planning on showing you a bit of flight footage and some intelligent flight modes and whatever else, but it didn't work out that way. So I got it up about 15 feet, 10 mile per hour wind approximately, so it shouldn't have affected it. I got it up, it said no GPS, so I brought it back down again and I waited until it had about 12 GPS and it said it was okay to fly, so I set it off again. Went up to about 15 feet and then it started doing this, pointing downwards and spinning round like that. I think that's called toilet bowling, but it wasn't just spinning round like that, it was literally going 30 foot in that direction, 50 foot in that direction. How it missed houses and things, I've no idea. I tried to control it and it wouldn't do anything. It was just out of control, flying all over the place. And I noticed the app on my iPhone was flickering, so something was going wrong. The only thing I could do to get it back down again was lower it with the left stick, and I basically lowered it until it was near a tree, then just lowered it into the tree and it hit the branches of a tree. Didn't do any damage, luckily. It's all in one piece. Bit of a disaster, really. So with that, I'm never going to fly it again. It's going to go back for a refund. I don't get free drones, obviously. I'm not that kind of YouTuber, I'm not good enough. But so I buy everything. So I just say how it is, and I don't like to swear when I'm talking about a drone, but bag of shit, absolute toss. I would not recommend this to my worst enemy. Now, potentially I've got a bad one. The fact of how it didn't fly properly, went out of control, the issue with the Android not working with the app, which is a known issue. I can't possibly recommend this drone. It's going back for a refund and I will never buy a Seafly drone ever again. Buy cheap, buy twice, as they say. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.
Fuck off.